everyone, this is Smita Sharma. You're watching India Ahead and the Speak In special collaboration session. Hashtag I am here with you. A very warm welcome to all those tuning in into this conversation. Now, this is a series where we try and get in fact, people who can inspire you, who can ask you to rise above the ordinary, and who also help you to come share your experiences in a safe space where you can bond together. Now, as far as the guest today on this session is concerned, is Mr. Dhimant Parekh. He's an impact entrepreneur. He's also somebody who's made a name for himself in the sustainability landscape in India for building Asia's largest impact content platform and also India's first sustainability focused subscription products. He literally gave birth to the Better India. Now, this is a digital platform with a reader base of 200 million and counting, which focuses on environmental and social impact, really. Mr. Parekh has also built India's first e-commerce marketplace for sustainable products to connect the medium, the small size MSMEs to really to the aware and the conscious customers and viewers as well. He's also recently launched India's only DTC subscription box of sustainable products, which is called The Better. You can look it up. And this has become a one-stop destination for all things sustainable focused in the country. So as far as Better India is concerned, we are living amid extraordinary times, times of difficulty, times of great challenges. We are living amid a pandemic, the COVID-19 coronavirus that has caused such huge destruction to lives and livelihoods alike. Most of us are collectively grieving today. We are all scarred, and it will take a very, very long time, not just to come out of the second wave, the third wave, but perhaps to collectively heal. And that's what the Better India platform is trying to do, to try and inspire people, help them share the stories, help them connect, help them network so that they know how they can come out of this together, grieve together, just have somebody to listen to their stories about. So without taking much of your time, once again, Dhimant Parekh, thank you for finding time to be on India Ahead. Would request you to please go ahead and give us a highlight, a broad outlook about how you see things today shaping up. What are your expectations and challenges? How can technology solutions really find sustainable, creative solutions to the kind of crisis that we see today? And we request all the audiences and the viewers who want to ask a question, feel free to drop in your questions on the chat box. We'll try and take them once Mr. Parekh has concluded his opening remarks. Over to you, Dhimant.
Thank you so much, Smita. Thanks for having me here. The idea of this conversation really is to highlight how can one really push through a pandemic like this. It's tragic. It's extremely. I mean, if you just look around it, there's a lot of despair, there's a lot of disappointment, and a lot of tragedy that you see around. So in times like these, where in almost every circle, family, friends, you are hearing a lot of bad news. In times like these, how do you really cope as an individual, right? And that's the question we asked ourselves. How do you really cope as an individual? How do you deal with these things? And we started searching around for how other people were kind of dealing with these things. And we found that there's a very interesting way in which all of this is manifesting itself, where there have been a whole lot of what we call COVID warriors and COVID heroes who've actually stepped out, and these are common men and women who actually stepped up in these times and gone ahead and made some amazing impact on their communities, on their neighborhoods. And that to us has been very inspiring to see. And the way I wanted to really kind of structure this conversation was not really me talking a lot, but really focusing a spotlight on these various people who have done some amazing work and really give you a glimpse of their stories. So if you just allow me, I'm going to just share a bunch of these stories that we've come up and reported on the Better India. And then I would love to get into what's our learning there and how do we kind of move forward, right? So I'm just gonna share this presentation that I have. So just getting into this, right? Like I said, I want to get into the COVID heroes and really talk about what people have been doing in this space. And the first story is from Rudrapur, where we have a welder named Baljit Singh Chawla, who is actually, one of the things with oxygen cylinders is, and what you really need is the oxygen flow meters, right? And the oxygen flow meters are not easily available. And here is a man who's actually welded them together, made so many oxygen flow meters, and giving away them for free to so many people, to COVID patients all across, Rudrapur, right? And so that's another very interesting sort of story that we have coming in from there. He's been working 17 to 18 hours daily, and he, prepares these flow meters at his shop, and they're sourcing the raw materials from Pan India. Now, even though he's struggling to get these materials, because the costs have gone up, he's not given up. And fortunately, with the help he's receiving from others, he's able to actually give out 70 such meters every day to those in need. So that's, one of the COVID heroes I wanted to talk about. The second COVID hero that I wanted to really highlight is Dr. Harmandeep Singh Boparai. He's actually a 34-year-old Indian American doctor who was working as a frontline worker in New York, in the United States. He's returned to his hometown in Amritsar to help with the growing number of COVID-19 patients here in India, right? And of course, he in fact told us that his inspiration is his mother, who was a gynecologist and passed away in 2011, but inspired him to do volunteer service. And now Harmandeep is, continuing to help all those who are in dire need of medical assistance until the situation becomes better in this country. So you have Indian Americans sort of coming back and helping out during this whole crisis. The third hero is from Kashmir. We have Mansoor Ahmed. He's actually from Kashmir's Budgam district. Here's the thing: he himself is an asthma patient, and he has been on oxygen for the last 3 years. And what does he do during this crisis? He actually drives a small truck to supply oxygen cylinders to people in need. He not only supplies, in fact, oxygen, but he also refills these empty cylinders. He carries these oxygen cylinders 24/7 in his truck. Despite, you can imagine, right? He's asthmatic himself, so he's really, really prone to COVID-19. So it's just such a fantastic, selfless effort of Mansoor Ahmed here. Similarly, we also have Jitendra Devradi, who is actually a microbiologist from Almora in Uttarakhand. And he has been working every day for the past 6 months to ensure that COVID-19 testing continues in his region. I don't know if many of you might know that the Almora Medical College is the only state-run testing center in that town, and they don't have any private testing facilities. And Jitendra is the only microbiologist amongst 21 doctors who have been, recruited at this facility. The lab has been testing almost 900 to 1,000 COVID-19 samples a day, while Jitendra himself has tested till date almost 25,000 COVID-19 samples. And so these are some fantastic, inspiring instances of people really stepping up and helping out their communities and their neighborhoods at such a large scale. To me, this is very, very inspiring to see how people are doing this. And so they're not coping with the pandemic alone. They are, in addition to that, coming forward and helping out. And so we're really grateful to these COVID heroes. So this is inspiring, of course, but the question then comes, right, Smita, as to how can you do your bit to help during the pandemic? Like, what can you do? Right? And to me, I think the simplest thing is that you have to first start with yourself. I think beyond doubt, before you start thinking about how do you help others and all of that, the core is how do you first take care of yourself, safeguard yourself, safeguard everything around you, and then you start thinking about how do you safeguard your family, because if you're healthy, then you can take care of your family. And once you've done that is when you start kind of thinking about how to safeguard your community, and then how to help out society at large, right? So this is really the way one should think about it. But when I go kind of deeper in this space, right, when you're talking about you yourself, I think it is of utmost importance that we all take this very seriously. We have to practice social distancing and self-care. This, of course, means that you prioritize your physical health, your mental health. The other bigger sort of problem that we see is that there's a lot of misinformation. So getting your sources right, making sure that you're only looking at verified resources for information around COVID is extremely important, right? So follow all the protocols that are listed out, both for you yourself and your family. And then I think once you've done that is when the whole community part comes in, when you are now capable of reaching out to your community, right? And I think it's not like you need to do any of those things that are COVID heroes that I spoke about, but it's the simple things. Can you check in with your employees, your colleagues, your neighbors, your relatives, your friends every once in a while? I think just a short call during these times goes a long way. Then the second important thing is, once you've figured out your verified sources of information, can you share those verified sources with people who need it or with people who don't have access to it? And if you have access, for instance, to the internet, can you help others who don't, right? By helping them get online groceries, online food, medication, and so on. And I think most importantly, you should just let your entire circle of friends and family and colleagues know that you're there, you're available to help, be a part of these groups very actively, and reach out to everybody and check on them. And so I think this whole community aspect is extremely crucial there. And I think once we've done that, you can start also thinking about how can you contribute to society, provided you're safe, your family is safe, your immediate vicinity is safe. What do you do now? How can you help and step forward and contribute? And one of the ways is, of course, donate your time. We are seeing so many volunteer groups who are working remotely on COVID relief initiatives. In fact, us at the Better India has a very large volunteer network who is helping real time validate and verify all the information that is running around, things like oxygen, cylinder availability, beds, medicine sources, and so on. And all of this, you can actually be a part of many of these initiatives. You can also dedicate some of your time in being a part of verifying all of this information for people who are impacted by the virus, right? Because when people are impacted by virus, you really don't know what to do at that point in time. You're just kind of clueless. Even though you and I have read so much online, when it strikes us, it's very hard to know where to start from. And then you're like, okay, what should I do? What should I do? And I think just helping out, just being there, helping people streamline their thought process is very, very crucial. And that's the least we can do. And then, of course, there is whole monetary help, right? There are numerous organizations out there who are helping the COVID, COVID affected people, who are helping your migrant workers, who are helping the daily wage earners, who are helping people who are not financially secure. So you could actually read up about them and go ahead and donate, money to them. What we have done, though, Smita, is that we've actually collated a lot of this and made it a lot easier for people to come in and find COVID-related information and resources to donate. So if you just go to thebetterindia.com and click into our COVID-19 resources section, this is something where you will be able to do COVID-19 fact checking. We have a resource center, like I said, which is real-time verified and validated through our volunteer network. We are running a few fundraisers for the various organizations, and one of our important fundraisers now is called To India's Children. Children have been, one of the worst hit sections of our society due to the pandemic. We're seeing numerous reports coming in of children being left with parents being in hospital, children not being able to get that attention, and so on. So how do we really help out there? So there are a whole bunch of causes with which you could come forward and help out in reading information, sharing valid information, and being able to donate to various social causes, right? So yeah, I think this is in a nutshell that I really wanted to kind of talk about how anybody as an individual should really think about how to cope with this pandemic, right? And so this is a brief framework that I thought would inspire people and give you some sort of leading pointers to figure out how to kind of face this.
Absolutely. That was a fantastic and a crisp presentation, Dhimant. And I think in these dark times, the more the inspiring stories that we know of, the better it is. And as we say that all heroes, superheroes do not necessarily come in the form of, come wearing capes, but many of them come in the form of people who, despite their own asthma, own illnesses, are out there helping, their neighbors and those in distress. And I think there are some people who are already putting in questions. Komal, in fact, has a question for you, Dhimant, who wants to know that how to overcome fear and step forward and help. And how do we know that the donations are genuine? I mean, it could work both ways. How do you know that the donors are not essentially people with some sort of a shady history? Is that something you need to look into? And or how do you know that the cause that you're donating to is a genuine enough cause, Dhimant?
Yeah, yeah. No, those are very good questions, right? I think the first question is the fear part. I would say that that's a very valid concern, and if you do fear, if you have fear about going out on the roads and the streets, I think there are so many gradual ways in which you can get out there. You don't need to necessarily be out on the road right now, but there are so many groups and volunteer networks that you can start joining and helping them out in some of the administrative tasks which are there. So that's one way to kind of start easing yourself into being able to serve others. So you start with that. You do a lot more work online. You can help out even online. There's so much work to do. You can help out verifying, validating, coordinating with people, calling the right resources, all of that stuff. So there's just so much that you can do just being online. And once you start understanding who are the people involved, how do things work, how do you take precautions and stuff, I think that's when you can start thinking about going offline and trying to overcome that fear. But very quick answer: just stay online and see. There's so much for you to do. The
Right.
second thing, Smita, is how do you really know whether where you're donating and this thing, right? Look, I think there are two ways to think about this. One is the greater good that you're thinking about. So you kind of pick and choose and kind of distribute your donations across various organizations. That way, you're really minimizing the risk of your money not going to waste. And in the larger scheme of things, I think there's a lot of great good happening there where you need to really contribute, and there could be fallouts, a few here and there. But by and large, if you are able to just kind of get different sources from different channels, you will be more or less hitting the right sort of kind of beneficiaries. The other way to do this is to actually go and follow the works of the organizations that you're looking at, get into their background, understand what they've done in the past, for how long they've existed, what has been the reviews. There are some great platforms online where you could actually just go. Give India is one of them, for instance,
Yeah.
where they have verified sources. There are a lot of other organizations also, crowdfunding platforms like Milap, Keto, where they do verify a lot of these sources. So, just following those platforms will help you at least eliminate a lot of the doubt that you may have.
Absolutely. And there are just so many ideas that one can work with, at an individual level. That's something that I keep on doing. But Dhimant, I need to ask you, because your presentation, there were a lot of points that resonated with me as a journalist, in terms of how you need to also self-preserve, take care of yourself at times. And that's a very difficult balance to strike. My phone is inundated with SOS calls and messages through the night. And it's very difficult to actually take a step back, because then there is that guilt that what if somebody was trying to reach out to me and I wasn't able to help? So, in times of a pandemic complicated by an infodemic, how does one really take that step back? Do you also deal with this kind of a conflict on alternate days or frequently?
Yeah, and this is a sort of a dilemma you face almost every single time you're trying to do something out there, right? And I think this is a crisis which is unprecedented. And to this, I will probably fall back on the guidelines that an airline gives you when you board the aircraft. If you've noticed, and now it's of course routine, but if you've actually noticed, when the air hostess is talking about the safety guidelines, one of the key things they tell you that when the oxygen masks fall down,
Yes.
first put it on yourself and then try and put it onto your neighbor or your kid or anything. Because if you are not able to do that first, um, everyone else is at even more risk because you're not there to help them out, right?
Mm.
And to me, I think that is a very, very important learning that is now manifesting itself in this pandemic, where if you are not able to kind of do that self-preservation well, then all those 50, 60 people that you could have helped out will also not happen. So
True.
I think we need to take that lens that for the greater good, it's important that we follow this model of helping ourselves first and making sure we're safe before we go out and help other people. And of course, COVID also has this really, really nasty attribute to it that you may be asymptomatic and you, with all the goodwill in your heart, you go to help out and you could just pass on COVID to someone else.
True.
And that's a terrible thing about this disease. So we need to really, really make sure that we follow that airline protocol really well.
Yes, that's a good example to give. I'll just ask a last question as we
Sure.
end the session, and if somebody else has a question to pop up in the box. I mean, I asked you about the guilt feeling, but there's also that helplessness. Many a times when you've helped out someone and you've still not managed to save that person, or that person has actually, not been able to survive. So, how does the Better India plan to focus more on mental health of individuals who are scarred, who are grieving, and also those who wanted to help, but their help basically could not be of use really to an individual?
Yeah, no, I think mental health and anxiety are the two important things that have really emerged in, or not. I wouldn't say emerged, but I think they've really taken center stage for all of us, right? And the only way you can really, I think every individual will have to deal with it separately. But the broad ways of how we are trying to do is, one is really highlight stories of people who are going out of their way and helping out other people. And the second thing, Smita, is we are putting a lot of effort in curating the right kind of information and the right kind of beneficiaries that people can donate to and be a part of. I think fundamentally we all have to understand that this is something that we are fighting against as an entire race, as a nation. So even one individual kind of, if we are able to make a difference, it's massive. And yes, it's disheartening that you put in some effort and you were not able to kind of see that result. But I think we have to take it at a larger picture level, saying that this is a massive thing that we are fighting against.
Right.
It's hard, but I think we just need to stay strong.
Yes, I guess we need to realize that we are not super, women, supermen all the time. And we do have individual limitations. There are some areas where it has to be the government intervention that can help, despite the best intentions of individual citizens rising to the occasion. A final thought from you, Dhimant. I mean, we've also been seeing a lot of reports about perhaps the legal hurdles created by the government, the policy hurdles when it comes into foreign donations, a lot of NGOs, because of the FCRA norms. Is there a thought that you would like to share on how that policy needs to be eased out?
I think in a crisis like this, we really need to remove as many hurdles as possible. And you know, even if there are certain concerns, I think I go back to the greater good picture, right? If we remove all the hurdles, if we are able to get impact which is 1000x than what we are today, then it's fine. Let's do it, even though you might have a few sort of negative things happen at the bottom level. But if the greater good is larger than that, then I think we should remove all hurdles possible. And I totally believe that during a crisis like this, especially, we should actually remove all red tape, all legal hurdles, and make it a lot easier for people to help each other.
Absolutely. And this is a war against a virus with so many unknowns that can only be won with collective will. Thank you, Dhimant Parekh, for finding time for this conversation, also to Better India and the Speak India series that you can continue to watch, the Speak In series. I'm here with you. I'm here for you on India Ahead. We just hope that we have been able to inspire some of you to come out. And, even if you think that it's a small contribution, a small help, remember every single drop matters in this time of crisis. So please take care. Be safe yourself, and thank you for tuning in to this conversation.
Thank you.